All right, everyone. Welcome to the FX market preview for the week of January 20th, 2019. All right, guys, let's start looking at some news events for this week. We've got some news out of China this evening. Could affect the dollar a little bit. See what that does. And then obviously we've got Martin Luther King holiday tomorrow, so U.S. markets will be closed. FX markets will still be open, so we'll see if we get any movement early tomorrow morning in the Europe session. I would expect things to kind of taper off, possibly, probably after lunchtime tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Going into Tuesday, we've got some news out of the pound early Tuesday morning, and then some later announcements also out of Canada and the euro. And then we've got CPI numbers late afternoon on Tuesday out of New Zealand. And we've got some big policy statements out of Japan, tentative schedule for Tuesday evening. And then going into Wednesday, again, we've got a lighter news announcement out of the pound. And then we've got some retail sales numbers out of Canada, 8:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. And then we've got unemployment numbers out of Australia Wednesday evening. And then going into Thursday, got some lighter news announcements out of the euro. And then actually before U.S. markets open Thursday morning, we've got ECB press conference and rate announcement out of the euro, and then just some lighter stuff out of the euro on Friday. So that's what we got coming down this week for news. Let's move on to the charts. See what we've got lining up here. Now, on the euro, we had weekly bar. We can kind of see, 2 weeks ago we had this, what looked like was going to be a breakout. Turned out to be a little bit of a failure pattern. At this point, it's looking like we're going to have to come back and retest this 113.10 to 113 area. Okay. If we go down to the pull up the intraday, let's see how we're opening up. Let's see on the hourly chart here. We've got wide range hourly bar up. Actually, the new hourly bar just opened. But you can see what we're breaking up into. Big shelf here. That's going to be some resistance here. So, I mean, if this just cuts through this area like a knife through butter and it can consolidate up here, possibly that is the low set here. But again, with this many people sitting up here trapped, I would expect this is probably going to fail up here, and we're going to have to drop down one more time, again, possibly to that 113 area. So that's kind of what I'm watching for there on the Euro USD. Okay. Let's move on to the pound. All right, pound, we know got wild and whippy last week with that the Brexit info, and what we ended up happening is we broke just below on that news. We broke below the lows of the prior week. That was these bars here. Okay, broke below that real quick and then snapped right back up, consolidated up near the highs, and then we broke out on Thursday and then came right back in almost down to the lows of Thursday again. So looks like this is going to take more time to set up, but again, just like I talked about last week, when we put in these big bottoming patterns, these tails, you know, it's double bottom, even though it was messy, it was on low volume. It looks to me like it's going to be a while before we test the bottoms of these areas. Okay, so I'd expect this area to hold down here. It is possible, you know, tomorrow we get another green bar right back up, and if it consolidates sideways up here, possibly the next breakout higher. Otherwise, you know, maybe we got to pull back here to this 128 area, which we know because of this consolidation shelf here, people are going to be looking to get out of positions here, whether they're either caught short or for new longs, because we're above this downward sloping trend line here and right into the moving averages. Okay. All right, if we pull up the see we're opening here on the pound real quick, we can see this strong pullback pretty much all day on Friday. And again, we're down here in this 2850 area. It is possible we got to pull back to the, this is that shelf we're looking at on the higher time frames, lines up with the 128 even area. So it is possible we pull back to this area, but again, if this is gonna be turn bullish real hard, it's just gonna shoot right back up, consolidate at the highs, and then break out from there. Okay. So a couple scenarios there on the pound USD. Okay. Let's move on to the dollar yen. Dollar yen. 2 weeks ago we had that indecision kind of consolidation bar, and then we had that breakout last week. So it looks like at this point it's kind of a shoe-in. I think we're going up here to the low of this bar. The low is, call it 110.15 to 110.30 area. Okay, so it's kind of what I'm looking for there because of this breakout that we had. I think we're coming up here to 110.30 area and possibly could even retest this. The top of this pivot would be 111.50 area. Now, if we go down to the intraday on this, see where we're opened here, and you can see we're pulling back here for the next buy setup on an hourly. Now it is possible we come back down in here. Ideally, buyers would like to see this stay above this 109.20 area and keep it above these pivot highs from back in here. If we go back to the 4-hour on here, you know, we had a lot of indecision here. It looked like it was going to pull back here. I was going to try a short trade back here from a couple weeks ago, and then we just were never able to get back below this area. Popped back up, consolidated sideways, popped up again pulled back to a consolidation area, top of a consolidation area, and then that's where we had the breakout there. Okay, so again, buyers are going to want to see this 125 to, call it 109 area hold here, but it does have room, and we can see where this next resistance area is lining up, 110.25 area, somewhere up in here. You can see we didn't even get close to that 110 area. So I think this has got one more push higher in it for sure. So that's kind of what I'm watching for there on the dollar yen. Okay. All right. Moving on to the dollar CAD. Just in a range, you can see had that bottoming tail, slight bottoming tail a couple weeks ago, and then we had just a whole lot of indecision last week. I did try a a long on this intraday. Got stopped out on it, but let's see what I was watching here. This base forming in here, and really kind of the telltale sign here was this double bottom in here. And then what are we doing? We're holding kind of in the upper end of this range. It got a little sloppy. I was in long down in this area. Had a stop. I should have had a stop below the bottom of this tail. But again, I was going for an intraday trade, trying to play this at least up to this line up here. But ended up getting stopped out down here in this pullback. Cranked up here, broke over the highs a couple times, and then came right back in pretty hard. But again, we still have a shot. I think if this is going to move higher this week, possibly it gets up to this 134.50 area. If we can get back above these highs with some conviction here, it shouldn't have a problem moving higher. But if it doesn't, if it doesn't move above those highs this week, my bias is going to kind of turn short on this. I think we got room to fall because buyers have had time to put together a nice support area to jump off of and get a nice run up to this area. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm watching for there on the dollar CAD. All right, check out the dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss has just been ripping. Had that that bottoming tail from a couple weeks ago, and I know Gregory was in here last week. I said be careful with this because it looks like it could move higher. And we look here on the hourly. Let's back it up to the 4 hour. And we had this move up at the end of the week that left that bottoming tail. And I figured, I talked about this area here last week, holding up in here. We got back above this trend line here, and we never even pulled back. But you can see what I was watching here. You know, kind of, what does that look like now? Looks like their inverse head and shoulders pattern, right? So when we go down to the hourly and look at this, you know, I drew this trend line after the fact, but again, we were unable to pull down into this area. But we did put in a double bottom here intraday, and then that bottoming tail said that buyers are willing to step up, and see what it did after that. So just not a lot of pullbacks here on the dollar Swissy. So if we go back to the 4 hour, if we can get a pullback here, you know, maybe we pull back to this 98.80 area, or down, we could pull all the way back to the 98.50 area for a possible next long setup. But it is possible, given the strength here that we've seen, this might just consolidate sideways here for a while before the next leg higher. But that's kind of a couple different scenarios there I'm looking at on the dollar Swiss. Okay. All right, Aussie USD. A couple weeks ago we had that, again, the flash crash. Put in the long bottoming tail, moved higher, and then last week we had a little bit of a reversal on the weekly, and we see what that looked like on the daily here. Again, kind of messy here, and we definitely saw some relative weakness when we looked at the. We're going to take a look at the New Zealand compared to the Aussie here. But Aussie was holding up much better, But again, tough to trade this either way unless you were definitely looking on the shorter time frames. Go down to the hourly here, and you can see the kind of ranges that we were in. You know, possibly pick off, you know, a trade on the hourly in here for this move down. But again, you know, you had to be quick to take your profits because we had just some long tails here on a couple of news announcements. So we'll see what this does. If this can consolidate down here at the lows, possibly it's got a pullback. We go to the higher time frames here. I'm thinking, you know, if we can possibly it holds the 70-80 area, or maybe it needs to pull down to the 70-50 area for the next long. But again, I would say it's probably not coming down to retest this tail down here for a while. And I'm looking for longer term long setups on the Aussie USD. Okay. All right, let's check out New Zealand USD. So again, similar story. A few weeks ago, long bottoming tail into this congestion area from back here, and then we had 2 weeks ago green bar up, and then almost fully reversed last week. So that's what I'm referring to when I said that New Zealand was showing relative weakness. We look at the pullback it had compared to the Aussie, where the Aussie is just consolidating, kind of chopping around sideways up here. And I don't know if you guys saw when Jeff put out that call on the New Zealand, and I was looking at the same area. Could have been a beautiful, beautiful area to short up here. Just never got up to it. You know, he put out a sell limit at this 68 area. Just never got up there, and then continued dropping. Okay. So similar tails to the Aussie on the New Zealand here, and then we're basically doing the same thing. So we want to see this either pull back to the 67.50 area, possibly puts in a double top up in this area intraday for the next leg down, or it just consolidates sideways down here. Okay. It is possible this just continues moving down all the way to the 67 before it does anything. Possibly then it pops back up to 67.50, and then, you know, if that was the case, we'd be looking at more of a head and shoulders top up here. Okay. But for right now, you know, intermediate term, I think this is looking better short than long. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at Euro Pound. Again, just kind of chopping around here. Last week had pretty wide range bar here with that Euro weakness and that extreme pound strength with that Brexit deal. And then Friday we had almost a complete reversal bar. Didn't quite close, take out the full bar here, but it shows us that buyers are stepping up where they should in this area. But again, it just looks to me like with this weakness, you know, if we get any pullbacks to 89 to 89.50 area, I think you know, there's going to be more weakness. And again, if this plays into what I was talking about, the pound doing, if it can just consolidate sideways or move up more than the euro does, this is going to play into the okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it. I can pull that up on a different different platform here at the end. Okay. All right. So that's kind of what I'm looking for there on the euro pound. Again, I think this is definitely a good short. If it can get back up into this 89, 89.50 area, I'd be taking another stab at this lower. Okay. All right. Euro yen. Let's take a look at that real quick. All right, euro yen, and we can see obviously when we look at euro yen compared to pound yen compared to dollar yen, this is the one that's been lagging. Okay, and we know based on the euro dollar, obviously euro's been lagging other pairs against the dollar, and that's what we can see here, this consolidation sideways. So again, just kind of chopping around here. I don't know if this has got, if this can get above this 125 area, it's definitely got room up to 125.50 to 125.80. But again, with that euro dollar looking like it probably needs to pull back some more, I think this is just going to take more time. So thinking I'm just going to be leaving this alone for possibly later in the week and just evaluate from there. Okay. All right, pound yen. Again, following through with the pound strength, it does have room up to 143 area. See, that's where this pivot low was back here. And you can see we've got about 80 pips to go here. Let's see what that what this is opening up like today. Yeah, we're getting the pullback here, opening up like today. Yeah, we're getting the pullback here. But again, it does have room back up to 143. Now, obviously, buyers want to see these areas hold down in here. Call it 140.50 area. So I'm going to be watching this area early in the Europe session and see if this area holds in here, and just see what forms down in here for the next leg higher for this pound yen. Okay. All right. Let's. Anything else you guys want to look at? Throw them out there because I will go through whatever you guys got or any questions on anything. Just throw them out there. Okay. Let's pull that chart back up. Take a quick look at the dollar index. Again, when we go back to the weekly on the dollar here, just kind of choppy overall. Choppy overall, but we can see, you know, we got back below the moving averages. We're pulling back up. You know, possibly this gets back up to the. Let's draw a fib on this real quick. So we do have room to get back up before we get into this. I mean, we're already up into this congestion area, but we got room up to 96 to 96.50. Okay, everybody can see that. We're looking at this consolidation area, coincides with these retracements. Okay, so I would expect a shift from buyers to sellers up in this area, and possibly that coincides with, again, that bottom being set in the euro in that 113 area. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm watching for there. But again, with this breakdown in the weekly chart here, again, this could fool everybody and just break out over the highs one more time. But I think with that breakdown we saw over the last several weeks, last week's rally is just a retracement back up into this area to get short on the dollar. Okay. All right, let's take a quick look at crude. We go out to the daily. We can see what crude's been doing. Consolidating. Looked like it had a nice breakout on Friday. We'll see what this new bar is doing here. But I don't know if you guys caught that when I first pulled this chart up, but this put in a consolidation up here on the end of the day on Friday, and then we gapped down. So again, we've got void below here to move lower, but this could definitely turn into a breakout failure. And we already know that we're up here at this resistance area. I'm thinking this is probably going to move lower before it moves back up higher. So where we pull back to, let's take a look at, let me pull this up real quick. So if we look at the retracement levels here, 4780 area would be a nice area for a pullback for the next leg higher. It is possible too, as wild and whippy as this has been, you know, intraday here, tried to pull back multiple times. It is possible this thing just does move sideways here and breaks out higher. But again, I'm thinking this is going to need a little bit more of a pullback if we're going higher longer term, I think. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. All right. Okay. So New Zealand CAD. All right. So we were looking at this head and shoulders pattern, right? Beautiful trade on this pair. So nice head and shoulders, got below the neckline here, and it was all over. Coming into this area, I would definitely be looking to take off half position if you haven't taken anything for sure. Okay, let's go up to these higher time frames, take a look. And you know, if you're willing to give the stop some room here, if we get below this area, we definitely have room. I think it's definitely dropping to the 200 at that point. And you got to give credit. Let's go up to the weekly here real quick. So that comes in at, call it 88.50. So possibly another 75 pips in it if we get down to the 20 moving average, 20 period moving average on the weekly. Okay. But we look at these lower time frames, even the daily, we can see we're changing trend here. Okay. So ideally, you see this just consolidate sideways here at the lows for the next break lower. Okay. So again, we're talking about that 87.50, I believe. And it obviously on this time frame, we've got room to fall all the way down to 8,700. And we'll see where that goes from there. You know, 8,700 would not do that much damage to the weekly chart. Obviously, the daily time frame is already damaged. So, but again, if you haven't taken half of your profit off the table, I would definitely take half, and then you know, possibly just leave a stop up here above the 90 area, and just see if this can do exactly what I'm saying. Just consolidates down here, because that would show extreme bearishness, and it's definitely going to have another drop probably in the tank. Okay, does that make sense on the New Zealand CAD? Okay. And the other one was the Swiss yen. All right, let me see. Swiss yen. Yes, I do have that one on here. Yeah, good deal. Good deal. Yeah, you just leave it there. The daily time frame and those lower time frames are on your side. So, you know, just give it time to work for you. And heck, if you can catch it all the way down to that 87 area, you've done pretty well. You know, just lock in. Let me go back to that real quick. Um, sorry, let me just pull up that weekly again. Obviously, that'll be okay. 87. Talking about this right here. 87 whole number. This right here. Can you see that? Yeah. Yeah, on the New Zealand cat, I'm back on that. So what I'm referencing here is these pivot highs. See these pivot highs here? Couldn't get through that area. When it did, we know there's people still trapped on the short side down this area. So that is definitely going to be an area where you're going to see buyers show up. Okay. But we could see we've got a lot of void in this area, and the daily's already on your side. So, you know, if we drew a trend line here, it's coming in somewhere like that. So possibly this retraces up here, or else it just goes sideways, which would show extreme bearishness for the next leg lower. Okay. All right. So again, back to the Swiss yen. Swiss yen. All right, what was the trade on here? Give me some details on this thing. I don't remember seeing this trade. What was the original trade? Or was it a call, or was it just something you had found, Gregory? Was it short by Jeff? Okay. Okay. All right, entry 1075. Okay. Okay. So I'd imagine what he was looking at here was, you know, retest a short to retrace down here, possibly double bottom in this area, just based on this daily. Okay. So you're good onto the 4 hour. And well, yeah, it is a downward channel, you know, but you know, sometimes when we see these bottoms get set on climactics like this, if you guys go back and look at your charts, sometimes you'll see where it just won't get all the way down there. And what it ends up doing is it sets a low at the top of this consolidation. it just never gets down to the bottom again. So, you know, we don't always know that it's going to get all the way down to the bottom here. If it does, it's great. But you know, this could, you know, just consolidate. Just drawing this in here for you. You know, it is possible that this consolidates here and then just starts moving up from there too. You know, that is possibility, because I've seen a lot of charts where, again, it doesn't retrace all the way down here to the pivot low like you think it would and put in a nice double bottom for you. It catches a whole lot of action right up here at the top of the base because there's just so many people that are willing to react at that level because of the people that got trapped. You know, watch this go down, watch this go down, and then they get short down in this area. They watch it go all the way up here, and when it pulls back, they're happy to just get, you know, a little bit back, close to break even, and then that's when you see a reversal like that. Okay. So again, if you're in this position, watching it, you know, it's tough to move your stop loss down at this point, because I think, you know, just based on the time that we're low volatility here, if you had your stop loss down here above this pivot high, I think there's a good chance you get taken out no matter what, even if this does trade lower again. So it's kind of a tough spot, especially with that entry, unless you're at the original stop loss up there. But again, something to watch. Just trying to give you my view on it, and hopefully that makes sense. But again, this is not exactly the you know, yeah, 110.52, yeah. And again, unless this just totally falls apart, you know, which it may, I kind of got a feeling that this might just pop above the highs. Either way, either it pops above the highs and goes sideways here for the next leg higher, or it pops above the highs, and that is the double top here within this 4-hour kind of sloppy downtrend here. Okay, and then it moves lower from there. So it's kind of tough, but you know, it's tough to give these things too much room sometimes, especially when you're already down at the top of this base down here, you know. But you guys can definitely see the difference from what I was talking about. Two totally different trades, two totally different trade setups between this Swiss yen and that New Zealand CAD trade. You know, we look at the daily on here, we look at this and say, you know, this was the climactic buy setup right here. It just might not retest. You know, daily is already down into, we go up to the weekly chart, we're already down into major support area in this area, you know, or we go back to the this New Zealand CAD trade and we say, you know, just the opposite. Head and shoulders, we've got room to fall, you know, be willing to give this a little bit more room on the stop loss up here, knowing that we've got all this void below, and odds are that we're going to come down in this area in some form. Whether or not it gets all the way down to the 87 area, we don't know. You know, maybe it stops at the 200, maybe it stops at 87.50. Okay, that's what we don't really know, but you know, pressure is definitely on the bearish side at this point. Okay. All right, guys. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to end it here. No, the 200, when I refer to the 200, In here, I'm referring to the 200 period simple moving average. So on the on my charts, you're always going to see, I always have the 10 MA in blue. I've got the 20 MA in green, and then the 200 MA in red. Okay. So I'll say, you know, 10, 20, 200. I won't say moving average usually. But yeah, if I'm talking about a pip number, I'll definitely say pips overall. Or if I just say, you know, 87 level, you know that's a price level that we're watching. Okay. All right, guys. Have a great week. Again, might see a little lower volume tomorrow with the U.S. markets being closed, but you guys kind of have an idea of what I'm watching out for and kind of my reasoning for it. So just keep those levels in mind, and we'll catch up again same time next week. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.